Well, this is a question, Matt, that has been coming up a lot lately. I don't know if you've heard this, Matt. The Dodgers are spending a lot of money this offseason, last offseason, every offseason. The Dodgers are spending a lot of money. And you have joked previously in conversations, Matt, that all this conversation, people complaining about deferrals, you wish people would just go back to complaining about how the Dodgers are trying to buy a championship. I have good news for you, Matt. People are starting to complain about the Dodgers trying to buy a championship. And so I dug in a little bit of to the numbers in the past. And I wanted to ask this question. Does buying a championship work in Major League Baseball? Does spending the most money or even being in the top 3, top 5 spending, does it actually correlate to on-field success? Now, the short answer is, of course, spending money makes it far more likely that your team is going to be good. But Major League Baseball, as we've talked about on this show and many other people have said, the postseason is such a random tournament for the most part that the very best team oftentimes is not rewarded with on-field success and championships. So I dug into the last 10 years, Matt, and I looked at luxury tax numbers. So like kind of what's your luxury tax number? Because salary cap can mean a million different things. And the top 3 payroll, I'll just ask you, I'm not putting you on the spot or trying to do a gotcha here. In the last 10 years, how many times do you think a team with a top 3 payroll has actually won the World Series?
I'll say 3, basically 30%.
The answer is just twice.
Okay.
Only 2 times in the past 10 years has a top 3 payroll won the World Series. One of those, you might remember, 2024, the Los Angeles Dodgers won the World Series championship. I'm not sure if you remember that. The Dodgers had the highest payroll, luxury tax purposes. You probably heard that a couple of places, and they went and won. It's worth pointing out, by the way, Dodgers, Mets, and Yankees were 1, 2, and 3. All 3 of those teams were in the championship series or the World Series. So there might be some, correlation in 2024. But besides that, to find another team, you'd have to go all the way back to 2018 with the Boston Red Sox. The Boston Red Sox they had the highest payroll in 2018, and they went out and won the World Series, which, again, is just unbelievable content to tell a Red Sox fan that they had the highest payroll in 2018 and won the World Series, because, golly, that's a team that loves to tell the media how interested they are in guys that they don't end up signing. But so just twice, having a top 3 payroll has gotten 2 World Series in the last 10 years. How many times, Matt, out of the last 10 years, do you think a top 7 payroll has won the World Series? We'll broaden this. So we're not just talking 3 teams. The top 7 payrolls in Major League Baseball gives you a what % chance, do you think, at winning the World Series?
In the last 10 years still?
Last 10 years.
4?
5. So 5.
Okay.
So top 7 payroll gets you a 50% chance. And those years would be 2024, again, which we mentioned. 2020, the 5th best team. The Dodgers had the 5th highest payroll. 2019, 6th highest payroll was the Washington Nationals. And then 2016, the Chicago Cubs had the 4th highest payroll. My point is, like, if you go back in 2023, when the Rangers won it, they had the 8th highest payroll. 2022, the Astros won it, they had the 9th highest payroll. 2021, Braves had the 13th highest payroll. Now, how they got to 13th is a whole nother conversation, not for this day. Again, the Dodgers in 2020 were 5th, Washington 6th in 2019, Boston 1st in 2018. Houston in 2017 had the 19th highest payroll. They were also cheating. 2016, the Cubs were 4th, and 2015, the Royals were 11th. And so my point at all this, Matt, is I understand the argument. I understand, as a guy who lives in the Northwest surrounded by Mariners fans, I understand the frustration and the annoyance with the Dodgers going and spending money. And yet, as a Dodgers fan, there's a part of me that's looking at this and saying, like, guys, this doesn't guarantee us nearly, like, as much crap as the Dodgers get. It's like it's a shoo-in. It's like it's, oh, well, you spend the most money, it's guaranteed. Even the top 7 teams, it's 50% you might fail. 50% chance in the last 10 years that you would fail.
Yeah, I think to me the biggest in the current kind of era, the last 2 CBAs, if you will, of Major League Baseball, like, because when the Yankees, obviously, like, the big story now is there hasn't been a repeat champion since the Yankees won 3 in a row, right?
Yeah.
And when the Yankees were doing it, they were spending big, like, it was kind of different rules, like you sort of, in some sense, it seems like more so back then, like, you could, and I'm not saying the Yankees did this, but, like, it did seem like that was how, like, you could buy a World Series championship in that climate system arrangement, whatever you want to call it. I think now it's shifted to, the high spending. I think what it guarantees you is at least a shot in October.
Yeah.
Right. And you said it as when we were coming on, like the joke for years had always been like, oh, look at the Dodgers spending all that money and not winning anything. Like, and now everybody's mad that they're still
Right.
spending. I don't want to say the same amount of money because it has certainly increased, but and again, I think the problem is, look, and I like the Otani's contract, like he's only getting paid 2 million,
Right. It's
right? Like he's
43 for the purposes of the numbers I'm looking at. Otani
fair.
goes down to
Okay, good point.
43 million.
Good point. Fine. Then I can't go down that path then. But that is
but still,
fun.
I mean, honestly though, 43 compared to 70, it's
Yeah.
not 2, but it's not 70 either.
Right. So, I still do think that spending all this money, like what it guarantees more than anything, in my opinion, and even that is guarantee is loosely said, is a seat in October. And if anything, MLB has made that a lot easier for the teams that aren't
Yep.
spending the way the Dodgers do and other big markets do because of the expanded postseason, which, hot take, spoiler alert, was a money grab for the league and the owners to continue lining their pockets. It wasn't in the interest that, like, spare me with we want to give the Pittsburgh Pirates a true shot in October now. Like,
Yeah.
it was to continue putting money in the owners' pockets. I think honestly what's going to happen now, and look, like I don't care if people are going to accuse the Dodgers of
Yeah.
buying a championship, this and that, because it's almost a perfect storm for the Dodgers where, yes, they are spending a lot of money. They're also spending it wide. Like the Padres
Yep.
have spent a ton of money on like 5 different shortstops that
Don't
have
play
been
short.
then moved around. Have then been moved around. The Mets are
Well, I'm
spending
glad.
big.
Yeah. Let me talk Mets real quick. Second in 2024, second highest payroll, first in 2023, first in 2022, fifth in 2021. In the last 4 years, they've been in the top 5 every single year. And this year, the year they basically blew it all up and traded away their high cost guys to, like, quote unquote rebuild, was the first year they actually had any meaningful success. So I don't mean to interrupt you, but
No,
that the point you're making here is the right one.
Yeah, and with the Mets, like, I don't want to call it a fluke, but it sort of wasn't. Like, their season was not expected to go the way that it ended up going. After heading into it, yes, there were high expectations and they were struggling, blew it all up and somehow turned it around, and then were taken care of in the NLCS. Credit to them for getting there, I guess. But it's not just spending the money; it's spending it wisely. And for the Dodgers, I think it's sort of a perfect storm of, look, like, yeah, so they had the financial backing to sign Shohei Ohtani. Guess what? So did the Angels. And I've told you, like, it's crazy to me that Artie Moreno said, no, we don't want to do that structure. Because like, in case people have missed it, we've referenced it on our shows several times. Ohtani came to the Dodgers and said, this is how I want to structure my contract. Would you do it? He also went to the Blue Jays, to the Giants, to the Angels, and I think
he
that
didn't
was
literally go to the Blue Jays. Just to be clear about
right.
where we're at
Thank
on this
you.
show, he did not physically go to the Blue Jays. Just
yes,
to
thank you.
clarify.
He was not on that plane to Toronto. Thank you for catching me there. And offered them those terms, right? And it was basically yes or no. Will you do it? The Angels said no.
Yeah.
Had the Angels said yes, I believe that Ohtani probably would have stayed there.
Yeah.
And so, like,
Ipe might not be in prison right now. Who knows?
True. Yeah. Who knows? I think my bigger point is what's going to end up happening. The Dodgers just have so much talent right now,
Yeah.
and Ohtani in his own, like, that it's not going to be that they quote unquote bought a World Series, because look, he could have chosen to sign with the Blue Jays, could have chosen to sign with the Angels, with the Giants. Like, it's going to be the talent that ultimately gets them there. It's not going to be because they put together a team of all-star. Look, we were just talking about Joe Kelly possibly being in the bullpen, right? Like, I mean, they don't have all-stars everywhere. And we, people are upset that Max Muncy is their third baseman and things like that. And Gavin Lux is at second base and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I think, it's like I said, it's kind of a perfect storm for the Dodgers of, yes, they have spent money, they have spent it wisely, and they have this tremendous collection of talent of, like, peaks that have lined up very well with Mookie, with Freddie, with Shohei, and stuff like that.
Totally. I think the last point you made is another great one, because yes, it's the money they spent on Ohtani and Freeman and Betts, etc., but it's also developing the talent to be able to trade for Mookie Betts. It's identifying Evan Phillips. It's trading for Michael Kopech. It's identifying, Max Muncy, who's now on like a $12 million a year deal. Like Gavin Lux was drafted and developed. Will Smith drafted and developed. The starting pitching, right? Like Walker Buehler, who just finally left, drafted and developed. Clayton Kershaw, drafted and developed. Dustin May, Tony Gonsolin, like a lot of these guys, they've been able to plug the gaps around the high-priced guys. And look, we're Dodgers fans. There's been a lot of failure for the Dodgers too. Like as much money as the Dodgers have spent, they lost in 17 and 19, and they didn't make it in 21, 22, 23, right? So to the people that say buying the championship, like we as Dodgers fans know better than anybody else that you can't buy a championship. You can have the greatest team ever. The team they had a couple years ago that basically broke every record. It was one of the 3 or 4 best teams in the last, like in the whole history of baseball from a win percentage perspective. And yet they didn't win anything. And so on one hand, screw the haters. Say whatever you want. We're the champs. We won the World Series. We have Shohei Ohtani. That's all that matters. And on the other hand, it also just isn't true because having a top 3 payroll, again, has only resulted in a World Series twice in the last 10 years. And only one of those 2 was the Dodgers, by the way. The other one was not. It was the Cubs or the Red Sox, excuse me. And secondly, you've got to do way more than that. You've got to get some luck mixed in as well. And so it's an interesting conversation. Again, the Dodgers will be far and away the highest payroll this year. And if they end up winning, I won't care one bit if people talk crap to me. And if they end up losing, I'm going to be just as mad as everybody else anyways. And so that's how I land it here. Again, the Dodgers will have the highest payroll. Whether or not it matters remains to be seen.
Yeah, and the other part too is they're paying a luxury tax for this, and
dollar for dollar.
That money is getting distributed to the smaller market teams. So if you want your owner to receive more money and then use, like your owner's getting the money, the owner of the team you're rooting for has the money.
Yeah.
If you want him to spend it, let them know. Dodgers can't not do things because such and such owner. I don't want to name anybody because then if we get clipped,
we always talk pick on the Pirates.
That is true. Yeah, Daniel started that. But I saw some of the tweets Daniel was getting, so I don't know if I want to go down that road. But if, a small market owner is not spending the way you think he is, like, that's not the Dodgers' problem. And I do also recognize that not every team can spend the way the Dodgers do, but I don't think the disparity needs to be as large as it is. And I don't think that it's the Dodgers' fault that these other teams are not doing it. And Jeff Passan, I think, was it after the Teoscar Hernandez signing? Right, he put out stuff about that too. And so it looked like the money is there and it's not the Dodgers' fault.
Yeah, look, you could look at a Blake Snell contract and say not every team in the league, in theory, can afford to just fork over a bunch of $200 million contracts like the ones the Dodgers have sent. And I would say clearly there is an advantage that the Dodgers have because of their market, because of their TV deal, etc. The Ohtani factor and how much he's getting paid adds to it. But like a Teoscar Hernandez contract, every team in the league could have given him a contract that the AAV is going to work out to like $20 million a year. There's no team in the league that couldn't have afforded that, right? And I would say the Tommy Edman trade, anybody could have traded for him and given him the extension that the Dodgers gave him. Anybody could have had Max Muncy for free. Like, these are the things that the Dodgers are doing, and the Dodgers should not be punished for doing the thing that everybody else should be doing. Whether they decide to or not is up to them.